Check mark. 3500. 1415. Poor boy's voice moves the world. Hotel California globe sparkles. Dash dash dash. Sparkles narration script. In a forgotten corner of a bustling city, where neon lights painted the nights with false promises and skyscrapers reached toward dreams that few could touch, there lived a boy named Ethan. He was no stranger to hunger, nor to the cold bite of loneliness. His clothes were worn thin, his shoes had holes, and his pockets carried nothing but air. Yet, inside him, he carried something far greater than gold, an unshakable voice, one that could make the stars tremble if only the world paused long enough to listen. Every evening, as the city grew louder with the rush of cars and chatter, Ethan would stand by the subway entrance. People hurried past him with eyes glued to their phones, rushing to places he could only dream of belonging to. In his trembling hands, he held an old, second-hand guitar with strings that squeaked in a body scarred from years of use. But when his fingers touched those strings, magic seemed to awaken from the cracks. Ethan's song of choice was one he had never fully understood as a child, but had come to feel deep in his bones: Hotel California. His father used to hum it when times were brighter, before illness stole him away. The melody had been Ethan's lullaby on nights when the world felt too heavy. Now, it was the thread that connected his broken past to an uncertain future. The boy would close his eyes, take a deep breath, and let his voice soar. It wasn't just music, it was pain transformed into beauty, sorrow sculpted into hope. His voice carried the raw honesty of someone who had known loss too soon, and yet still dared to dream. At first, no one noticed. Feet shuffled, coins clinked into other buskers' jars, and life carried on as if his voice were invisible. But slowly, something began to shift. A woman, tired after a long day at work, stopped mid-step. The sound tugged at her heart, reminding her of a time when she too had believed in miracles. A young man paused, lowering his headphones, realizing the boy's voice reached him in a way no polished track ever had. Then, like ripples on water, more people began to gather. One night, as rain poured over the city, Ethan stood shivering under a broken umbrella. His fingers were numb, his voice cracked, but he kept singing. On a dark desert highway, he began, and the words seemed to cut through the storm. To his surprise, a small crowd formed, huddled together beneath the rain. No one asked him to stop. No one hurried away. Instead, they listened, truly listened. Among the crowd was a man named Daniel Carter, a music producer known for discovering voices that carried truth. He hadn't planned on taking the subway that night. Fate, however, had its own design. Daniel stood in silence, his heart pounding as the boy's fragile yet powerful voice painted the night. Ethan wasn't just singing a song, he was pouring out every unshed tear, every unspoken prayer. When the last note faded, the crowd erupted in applause. Ethan opened his eyes in shock. He wasn't used to being seen. His cheeks burned, not from the cold, but from the warmth of recognition. For the first time, he felt like he mattered. Daniel stepped forward, offering his card. But Ethan, wary of empty promises, simply smiled and tucked it into his pocket. He had been let down too many times to believe in miracles. Still, something in Daniel's eyes told him this wasn't pity, it was respect. Days turned into weeks. Ethan kept singing, and the crowds grew larger. Videos of him began circulating online. A clip titled, "Homeless Boy Sings Hotel California Like an Angel," spread like wildfire. People across the globe watched in awe as his voice echoed through their screens. From the busy streets of New York to quiet homes in rural towns, hearts were moved. Comments poured in. "This boy's voice just healed something inside me. I can't stop crying. The world needs to hear him. This is why music exists." For the first time, Ethan's story reached beyond the city limits. News channels covered him, calling him the voice of hope. Donations arrived. Strangers offered food, clothes, and shelter. Yet Ethan remained humble, always returning to the same subway corner, guitar in hand. He knew fame could be fleeting, but kindness could last forever. One evening, Daniel approached him again. "Ethan," he said softly, "the world is listening. Come with me. Let's record your voice properly. Not for money, not for fame, but because your song can heal people." Ethan hesitated, fear clawing at him. What if he failed? What if they only liked him because of his poverty, not his talent? But then he remembered his father's voice, telling him, "The world will always try to dim your light, son. But you were born to shine." With trembling hands, he agreed. The studio felt like another world, walls padded with silence, microphones gleaming like portals to destiny. Ethan took a deep breath, his guitar resting against him, and began to sing Hotel California. This time, there was no crowd, no coins, no subway noise. Just his voice, pure and unshaken. When the recording ended, silence hung in the air. Daniel's eyes glistened with tears. "Ethan," he whispered, this will move the world." And it did. The track went viral, not because of fancy production, but because of the authenticity in Ethan's voice. Concerts followed, charity events, interviews where he spoke not of his struggles, but of gratitude. He donated much of his earnings to shelters and programs for children like him, refusing to forget the pavement he once called home. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when Ethan was invited to perform live at a global event. The stage lights blinded him, the crowd of thousands stretched endlessly, and cameras streamed to millions around the world. Nervously, he held the microphone. "This song," he said, voice trembling, "was my father's favorite. He believed music could heal hearts. Tonight, I sing not just for him, but for every child who feels invisible. May you know, you matter." As his fingers strummed the first chord, the stadium fell silent. His voice, steady and strong, carried across the world. Some cried, some smiled, but everyone felt the same truth: this was more than music. This was a reminder of what it meant to be human. When the final note hung in the air, the crowd rose in thunderous applause. Ethan's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of overwhelming joy. He wasn't the poor boy by the subway anymore. He was a voice that had touched the earth. And as he bowed, he realized the most important lesson of all: it wasn't fame or fortune that moved the world, it was kindness, resilience, and the courage to share one's light. Ethan's journey reminds us all that greatness can rise from the most unexpected places. Sometimes, the voice of one poor boy can remind the entire world of its own humanity. And sometimes, all it takes is one song, one act of courage, to move the world.